Hey guys, good morning and welcome back to another episode of About EVs. Today, we're going to be working on my Tesla to fix this little spot here, which was a scratch, and I touched it up with some matching touch-up paint, but as you can see, it's not quite perfect, and it's still very noticeable. And being a perfectionist with this car, I can't really live with it like that. It's driving me crazy. So I got these guys coming out today in Southwest Florida. The company is called Colors on Parade, and he is going to professionally touch it up, paint it basically, in this little area, and we'll see how it comes out. So I'm gonna try to videotape this guy a little bit here and there and get his process in. I don't know if he's going to agree to it or not, but he's a little bit of a curmudgeon, but we're going to try, and hopefully I'll get definitely the process and the end result will be in there, and we'll see if it looks any better. So take a good look at what it looks like now, and hopefully at the end of this process it will be not noticeable. That's what I'm hoping. He's already complaining about it's got ceramic coat on it, and that's a hassle, and he can't buff it off. And I told him it's like you just use some light rubbing compound, it comes off. But he's insisting no, it doesn't. The guy's he's a bit challenging, but we'll see how it goes. So stay tuned, more to come. Hey guys, so I wanted to walk you through this video. He shows up, and he actually turns out to be not so bad of a guy. He was very, very, very chatty, and he was totally okay with me filming the whole thing, and he's like, oh, it's gonna come out the same no matter if you film or not. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through his procedure and how he does, but he shows up in a little paint van. He says they actually keep one at a dealership 24 hours a day, as that's about half or a little more than half of his work is just repairing dealer cars that come in with scratches or need a little touch up or whatever. So knowing that gave me a little bit more confidence that he knew what he was doing, and he had some pretty good professional experience. But I still was a little nervous about the whole procedure. But anyway, he comes in, he immediately looks over the job, and then he starts buffing away at the problem area. So he takes it right down to the primer, basically.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
here you can see him just, basically taking off or taking down the clear coat. So that he could then buff out, make it all blend together. But he's just taken off a layer of clear coat here, and he ends up replacing it. So I mean, at this point it looks like a disaster, but it's not that bad. Yeah, so just taking off clear coat here, and continuing to take that down, and then he wipes it all off,
Yeah, right.
gets all the dust off, and tapes it up. And I wish he had taped it up more than he taped it up. I wish he had taped up the whole car. He actually insisted on doing this outside, even though I offered to have him do it in the garage, but he wanted to do it out in the air. He basically puts a little bit more primer on, and then he's just hand buffing in, and then he wipes it down and takes it off and just makes sure everything's blending super smooth. He's chatting away the whole time, like about everything known to man. It was pretty funny, but he kept me busy and entertained while he was there. So at this point, he's pretty much ready to start spraying, and he goes in and mixes in his colors. So the first, on this multi-coat red, it's actually two layers. There's a base layer, and then there's a top layer, which has like kind of like the sparkles and stuff in it. But right now he puts down the base layer, and he puts it down he's blending it. He's blending his repair into the rest of the car, and then he just tries to accelerate the drying process, and puts another coat on as he goes along here. So, like, half of it I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, so I'm just going to try to tell you as much as I could figure out what he was doing. Every now and then he would tip me off on what he was doing, but he was mostly talking about the world politics and everything else as he was going along. At this point, he's putting on the second layer. So this is the top layer of the multi-coat, because you can tell it's got a little bit of a sheen to it, where the base layer was just more of a plain red. So he's blending in this top coat at this point. And all of this he mixes in this truck with his computer before he comes out with a little vial that attaches to his sprayer, which is basically a vacuum cleaner in reverse direction from what I could tell. Because that's what it sounded like, and he seemed to verify that it was like a 9 psi vacuum, reverse vacuum. He says that works better in the field than a painter's air gun.
It's amazing how fast.
Here he's actually putting on clear coat, because you can see the shininess coming around. So he puts on a couple coats of the clear, and
Really.
he's just blending it in here. See how shiny it is when it's wet. It's looking pretty good at this point, and I'm pretty happy with it so far. Just adding clear coat.
20 minutes? Wow.
Slowly but surely, he's going over and blending in the repair corner with the rest of the bumper. Gets underneath. Just basically going over with another coat of clear. There may have been a 10-minute gap in between where he just kind of let it dry. Yeah, see, occasionally he'll take the gun off of the air, and then he'll just spray air. What happened here is what I noticed, and he noticed, and I made sure he noticed, is a drip of his sweat went right onto the middle of the bumper. He was pretty much done at this point, but a drip of his sweat ended up on the middle of the bumper there, and he's trying to repair that. So what he does is he tries to force dry it to try to get the water to just evaporate without causing any damage. But he doesn't end up having much luck with that, and he's still trying to get it to go away with just air. So that didn't work. So what he ends up doing now is, I think he's got the clear back out, and he's trying to go over it with more clear to try to hide it. But what ends up happening is that doesn't work. So now he's trying to buff down the clear a little bit to try to get out that sweat drip. And it was very noticeable. You can't pick it up on the camera. I did try to zoom in so you could see it, but it was noticeable. Like, you could definitely see it, and that was you couldn't leave it there. So he's just trying to buff out some clear and seeing if he can make it go away. And I think he keeps buffing and buffing, and it's still there, and it's still there. So at some point he gives up on this process, and he's trying to dry it now and make it so hopefully it went away, but it didn't go away. So I pointed it out to him, and he's like, oh yeah, no big deal, it's just delay a game. That's what he said. He's kind of hilarious. So what's he doing here now? I think he's still trying to no, what he's doing now is he's putting another base coat down. So this is the first layer of red. That's still was a mess. Like, you could still see the bump from it. So at this point he's back to actually doing what is essentially another repair on the car. He's got to repair his mistake. I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but like, a drop of sweat flew off of his forehead. You can see it was hot out, and he was sweating, and it went right into the middle of the bumper, and before it had dried. So he's got to basically do a second repair job now on his mistakes. So that's now he's taking it all down with a heavy pad, an abrasive pad, basically the same as what he had done on the corner. And the corner there, you can see the repair. It's done. I mean, it looks fine. But now he's repairing his mistake. So he goes over the whole bumper, and at this point I'm kind of a little concerned because it's like it was pretty good, and now it's starting over almost. But I'm like, okay, he probably knows what he's doing, so I'm not gonna panic or anything. And now he's just buffing out the clear. Or he's buffing out his grinding to make it all match. And now basically he's going way over to where the original paint still is, so he's trying to blend it. This is pretty much the finished job after he was done. Didn't look too bad. It wasn't exactly perfect, and I was going to then bring it to my detailing guys to have paint protection film put on it. And here I am having that done, and these guys looked it over really close, and they kind of immediately noticed it was painted outside, but they were able to put it on, and here's the finished product of what it looked like after it was done. And they cleaned up the paint and any problems areas they saw, and they put the film on, and really it looks pretty good. One thing I have to note on here is that because he didn't tape up the whole car, I had to go around and clay bar off all the overspray that was here and there. It was on most of the glass. It was on the A-pillars. It was basically a lot on the driver's side of the car where he was working. So just note that unless I think if he did it again, I would have him tape up more of the car. I mean, it only took him 2 minutes to put that paper up, and I would just be like, could you do more of it just to make sure, or I'll do it while you're working. I don't even care, because that prevents the overspray from going on to the rest of the car. So you couldn't see it, but it felt very gritty, like when you put your hand over it. It wasn't like glassy smooth like it typically is. So I had to clay bar out the whole car again to get that off. And the price of this guy was about $500 for this job. It took him about a little more than 3 hours. I think he probably could have done it in 2 had he not made that mistake. But compared to going to a body shop and then having your car for weeks and then walking out with probably a $2,000 or $2,500 bill where they got to take the bumper all the way off and spray. I mean, it's the right way to do it. Like totally not knocking a body shop. But the caveats are that you're not going to have your car for a long time, and you're going to pay a lot more money. And he said that when they do it in a body shop, what they have to do is typically recalibrate or replace the ultrasonic sensors that are in the bumper. Don't know for sure if that's something that you would have to do, but he said that that's typically what they do, and it's another $500. So he was saying that it would cost you about $2,500 to do this job at a body shop, which I don't argue with him. I think he's probably pretty close. Plus, they would have my car for 2 weeks. In the end, though, with the film on it and bringing it to a detailer, that cost extra, So I think that was another $800 to have the bumper filmed. And they also kind of did a quick paint correction on the back because they noticed some dust particles that had gotten in the paint. That's why they asked me right away, had it been painted outside, because they noticed that right away. I was like, yeah, it was painted outside. So they were able to do a paint correction on that and fix it before putting the film on. After it was all said and done, though, I'm very happy. It looks really good. The paint match, I have to say, was really amazingly good for the computer. All he did was get the paint color off the door, And he went in his little van and punched it into the computer, and he came out with a perfect match. I mean, it was dead on. I'm not a body guy, so maybe you guys can pick it out and say, hey, it's it's not quite exactly, but for me, for a layman, it was pretty good. So anyway, that is Colors on Parade. If you guys have a little scratch or something, these are the guys to call out for that if you want to have it done quickly and have a pretty decent job done. This guy seemed to do a pretty, I would pretty much recommend them, as long as you know the caveats. You might have to clay bar the car, and you probably going to want to film over what he did just to make it like exactly up to my standards. But if you're okay with that, it's a good option to get a scratch fixed. In my case, it was actually the Mini Cooper that you can see in the background in part of this video popped out of gear and rolled into the back of my car. So that's how I got that. But just dumb luck. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you found this useful. If you did, give me a thumbs up, because that helps the channel out a lot. And what really helps the channel out a lot, if you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I know a lot of the viewers are not subscribers, so go ahead and hit that if you don't want to help me out and kind of make this channel a little bit more popular. As always, thanks again. Check out the rest of my videos for more stuff on Tesla and more stuff on EVs. I'll catch you on the next one.